Imagine a world map. Now color a quarter of it red. That's how big the British Empire was at its strongest. It was huge, stretching from the cold lands of Canada to the hot deserts of Australia. It was so big, people said the sun never set on it. This massive empire, built over hundreds of years, changed the world forever, affecting its politics, cultures, and everything about it. The story of the British Empire isn't simple. It's a story of big plans and clever ideas, of exploring new places and taking advantage of them. It's a story of trade and conquest, of progress and hardship. To understand the world today, we need to understand how this giant empire grew and then fell apart. This isn't just a story of kings and queens, of battles won and lost. It's a story of people, those who built the empire and those who were ruled by it. It's a story of what colonialism left behind, both good and bad, that still affects us today. The beginning of the British Empire started long before it became so big. It began with the Tudors, a royal family that led England to a new age of sailing and exploration. When Queen Elizabeth I defeated the Spanish Armada in 1588, everything changed. England, once a small player, became a major power on the oceans. The riches of the East, with its spices and treasures, were too tempting to resist. The East India Company, started in 1600, led the way for British ambition. It was a business, yes, but it soon became as powerful as an army and as influential as a government. Across the Atlantic Ocean, something different was happening. The first English settlements in North America were being built. Jamestown, in 1607, was the start of what would become the United States. These early colonies, wanting land and resources, would lay the groundwork for a new empire. The 17th and 18th centuries were a time of growth and fighting for the new British Empire. In 1707, England and Scotland joined together to create the Kingdom of Great Britain, a stronger and more united force in the world. This new strength was quickly tested in wars with France, another empire-building country. The 7 Years' War, a huge war fought all over the world, ended in 1763 with Britain winning. Britain took control of large areas in North America and India, becoming the world's strongest navy. But trouble was brewing. The American colonists, used to governing themselves, didn't like the tighter British control. The American Revolution, started by the saying, "No taxation without representation," would soon challenge the entire British Empire. Losing the American colonies was a setback, but it didn't stop the empire's growth. It actually shifted the focus to other parts of the world. The East India Company, growing stronger in India, became like its own country, ruling over millions of people harshly. Australia, first a place to send prisoners, became a land of opportunity for settlers looking for a new life. Africa was also divided up among European powers, with Britain taking a large share. The discovery of gold and diamonds made the rush for Africa even worse, leading to terrible mistreatment and control over entire groups of people. The Industrial Revolution, powered by coal and steam, turned Britain into the world's factory. This new industrial power, along with its strong navy, let Britain control much of the world. Resources came from the colonies to feed Britain's factories, and finished goods were sent back, making Britain richer while the colonies stayed poor. The Victorian era, during the 1800s, was the peak of the British Empire. Queen Victoria, a symbol of British power, ruled during a time of great peace and wealth, at least inside the empire. This Pax Britannica, enforced by the Royal Navy, allowed goods and people to move freely, helping trade and communication around the world. The empire, no longer just about conquering, started big building projects. Railroads crossed continents, telegraph lines connected faraway places, and canals made trade routes shorter. These projects, while helpful in many ways, were often built using forced labor and unfair treatment. Underneath the appearance of progress and a better world, people were unhappy. Groups wanting independence from colonial rule started to appear in India, Africa, and other places. The beginnings of decolonization, though it would take decades to happen, were starting. The 1900s saw the slow end of the British Empire. The two world wars, while won by Britain and its allies, used up the country's resources and weakened its power. The rise of the United States and the Soviet Union created a new world where old empires didn't matter as much. Groups wanting independence, inspired by the idea of self-rule, became stronger after World War II. India, the most important part of the British Empire, became independent in 1947, though sadly divided. This huge event started a period of decolonization, as British colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean demanded and won their freedom. The impact of the British Empire is complicated. It left behind roads, schools, and legal systems that still exist in many former colonies. The English language, spread by the empire, is still used all over the world. But the empire's legacy also includes exploitation, racism, and the destruction of cultures. The forced movement of millions of Africans as slaves, the brutal stopping of rebellions, and the deliberate destruction of native cultures are dark parts of the empire's history that still affect us. Understanding the British Empire, its rise and fall, is important for understanding the world today. It reminds us that power, even when it seems absolute, doesn't last forever. And it clearly shows the lasting impact of colonialism, both good and bad, that still shapes our world.